wonderful book of the same name. I just gave a lecture yesterday morning to the students at Franklin Classical School on the marvel, and even perhaps we might say the miracle of the Celtic Church, which is the root of modern Irish history. But while in that lecture, I was able to regale my students with a number of wonderful stories, plunged into the great adventure that the warrior poets give us in words and deeds. The fact remains that Irish history is a rather murky tale to be told. This is what one great scholar, Ire Rachlach, Arne Lawless, said, "Irish history is a long, dark road with many blind alleys, many sudden turnings, many unaccountably crooked portions. A road which, if it has a few signposts to guide us, bristles with threatening notices, now upon the one side, now upon the other, the very ground underfoot being often full of unsuspected perils, threatening to hurt the unwary, for this is the stuff of legend, of myth, and of mystery." And so it is. Irish history is indeed a long, dark, and treacherous road, precisely because its emphasis necessarily is upon tradition rather than upon empiricism. The Irish were great historians of their own type. They wouldn't pass muster with modern empirical scientific historians precisely because they weren't interested in the same sorts of facts. The fact is that the history of Ireland is rooted primarily in legend, which is not the same thing as saying that Irish history is like Narnian history, that is, in the sense that it is fiction. Rather, Irish history is legend in the sense that G.K. Chesterton asserts, in this broader and more human sense, that legends are actually the most important things about it, that legends are the things that we actually care about. So the fact is that we don't remember the empirical data. We remember the stories. We don't remember the boring bits of conquerors and movements and gross national products. We remember the good bits about heroes and poets and things that race the heart. It was the great Eudora Welty who said, "If you want someone to hear the truth, tell them. If you want someone to know the truth, tell them a story." Irish history is full of stories. Stories about heroes and poets and things that race the heart. Thomas Cahill points out that Ireland had neither a Renaissance nor an Enlightenment, neither a Protestant Reformation nor an industrial revolution. It remained a third world country with a Stone Age culture well into the 20th century, and yet, he says, this marginalized people on the fringes of Western civilization inordinately captures our imagination and demands the attentions of men and nations, all out of proportion to its size or power or importance. According to William Butler Yeats, the Irish stand alongside the Jews, the Scots, and the Greeks as the great marvels of history. Tiny, insignificant, tragic, captive peoples who nevertheless come to define and demarcate the whole narrative of the human drama. And thus, he says, the stories, the legends, the fables, the myths, the songs, the ditties, the tales, the sagas, the ballads, the shanties, the poems, the yarns, the parables, the fairy tales, the hymns, the chants, the rhymes, the limericks, the odes, the elegies, the laments, the dirges, the chronicles, and the histories of these peoples capture us like almost no others. It is astonishing to think about, isn't it? That we know more about the Irish than, say, about the Russians. We know more stories of more heroes from Ireland than we do from Spain or France. Isn't it strange that the great holidays peculiar to this tiny island nation are somehow incorporated into the normal way that we do things? Every town, even ours, has an Irish pub. Why are there no French pubs? You ever raised a pint in a Polish pub? Why Ireland? No, why is it that the stories of St. Patrick and of Brendan the Adventurer, or Columba, or the chronicler Bede, or Boniface, why is it that the Isle of Iona or the monastery of Lindisfarne seem to capture our attentions and dominate our view? Why is it that they become the chroniclers of the story of our story? I mean, to be sure, they are great stories. The story of Patrick, how as a 16-year-old in Britain, captured, dragged off into captivity, spends 8 years in nakedness, cold, hunger, deprivation, and loneliness, comes face to face with the glory of the gospel which he had been taught as a child. And there discovers the marvel of communion with the God Almighty, transforming his character and his nature to such a degree that he actually came to love his once hated captors. When he was awakened in the night and told that he would be set free, all he had to do was walk to the seashore. He had no idea where the seashore was. It's a good thing that Ireland's an island. He set out and he walked 200 miles over the course of 6 weeks, wearing the collar of a slave, never once stopped, until he made his way to a seaport of Wexford and ultimately found his way back home again, and almost immediately announced to his rejoicing family that he believed that he needed to go back to the very people that had held him captive and treated him so scornfully and so brutally. He went to the continent and spent 18 years preparing for what would be his life's mission, and eventually made his way back. And the